So this is a PowerPoint for our first project on line variations. We already talked a little bit about line in the first PowerPoint. We're going to talk a little bit more about it for this project because we're thinking about line variation and how we're going to use that in our first project. So we talked about this in the earlier PowerPoint as well, about different types of line. There are many different types of line, varying in weight, height, width, direction, orientation, character. A line itself can have many different properties. We also talked about implied line, so meaning that lines are connected by the eye. The one we didn't talk about yet is psychic line. So in a psychic line, there is no real line, but the placement of objects causes the viewer to look in a certain direction. So we'll look at examples of each of these. Talked about this before, actual versus implied line. There's several different kinds of line. Actual lines are the vertical lines that show us going down the page. There is an implied diagonal line in this piece where our eyes just sort of following where all the ends stop and we sort of see an implied direction. In this piece by Lucy Mackenzie, we see some implied lines, right? Some implied lines of, if we follow the line of the figures back, we have very strong diagonal lines taking us up this direction of the piece. We do have some actual lines, though, too, taking us back the other direction. The directional line can also lead the eye of the viewer. So when we talk about psychic lines, it's something that helps us lead our way around the picture plane. So look at this piece. We've got a bunch of figures standing around, and if we follow the lines of their eyes and hand, they help to create a dynamic composition. So lines and shapes tend to go together. We talked about this before, the difference between an outline and a contour line. But we can think about line as describing specific shapes and objects. Line is a quick way, it's sort of an artistic shorthand to show or define a shape. A couple examples of contour line drawings by students. We can see it's not just implying a flat shape, these look like three-dimensional forms. Cross contour lines can also help to describe texture. Lines in bark help to reveal the contours of the tree. Lines in the sand or paper or fabric, they help imply the three-dimensionality of the forms. As we talked about before, lines can also express mood and emotion. The quality of a line can help to imply that, right? So thick, thin, rough, smooth, they all have different emotions applied with them. This is something you're going to do actually for one of your first discussion posts. You're going to brainstorm 10 different emotions and try to match a feeling that can match it. So if we think about different descriptions for line, if you're looking at those lines on the right, could that line be nervous, excited, calm, graceful, dancing, artful? You're going to try to find ways to depict all those different types of line. And you have to think about movement, line thickness, quality of line, psychic lines, implied lines. There's really a big variety that you can pick from. I'll look at a few well-known artist piece, this piece by Jackson Pollock, if you had to choose a mood or emotion to describe the lines in this piece, what would it be? Erratic, jittery, ecstatic? How about this piece? Obsessive, repetitive, anxious, unwielding, mysterious, evolving, methodical, geometric, obsessive, directional, anxious, unknowing, searching, portal, depth defying, unwieldy, nervous, this you have to think too, there's a huge variety out there. And this first project, we're only dealing with line. You're not meant to necessarily make anything out of it. You're just thinking about putting three qualities of line together into one composition. So I wanted to show you guys some student examples for the first project, just to get you thinking about what you could do. So these by no means are a right or wrong way to do this piece. The guidelines kind of simply state you have to pick three different types of line and put them together in an interesting composition. So how you do that is up to you. I'm going to look at some student examples here from previous student projects. And they're all very different, but all successful projects. See if you can pick out the three different types of line in each one. Remember, you have to think about line thickness, line variety, the quality of line, implied lines, psychic lines. You want to think about using the whole page, having that even 3-inch border all the way around as talked about in the directions. You want to make sure you have that extra space along the edges. There's two reasons for that. The first reason is craftsmanship wise, you give yourself a hard edge to follow to. Then you can always break the plane if you wanted to. It also is a protector for your drawings because if a paper gets damaged, it tends to be along the edges. So you're protecting your drawing by leaving some extra space along the edge. It also gives you room to frame something later if you're interested in it. Like I said, there's a few student examples. By no means are those the only way to do it. This is something you're going to explore in your 3 thumbnail sketches. When we put them in, you'll get feedback from both me and your colleagues in the class.